this week, everything's changing with Trump's tariffs being on, being off. Only some people are being paused, 90 days. Then global markets are reacting extremely fast, right, on both sides. We have Goldman Sachs and JPMorgan, Jamie Dimon, talking about warning of recession. It's finally out on the horizon. Finally. All right, but that's not all. We have the VA slashing a program that was foreclosure protection that saved over 17,000 veterans or current service members, right? Anyone who has a VA loan from losing their home. That's a big deal. 17,000 people started 10 months ago. Now they want to cut it. So if you're in real estate investing or you're just trying to protect your financial future, you got to hear this. This is what Military Wealth Club is for. Here's another episode. Let's break it all down right now. All right, y'all. Let's get into it. If y'all don't already know, this is Military Wealth Club. All right. I'm Mercedes, the Military Realtor. And look, as a service member, homeowner that has served in your boots before, I know what it's like. I know what it's like to use your VA loan for the first time, to sell your house for the first time, to house hack, to do renovations, to want to do things completely differently, right? But I'm here to talk to you about your VA loan benefits, investments, real estate business, and anything that saves you money, energy, and time. As you know, that's all I do. Content is here to provide you value and save you money, energy, and time. That's it. I pretty much am doing what I wish I would have had access to when I was still serving and going through my real estate investment journey. So let's go ahead and just get right into it. Number one, this week. Number one, Trump pauses tariffs for countries. Pretty much the same thing, by the way. Companies and countries, pretty much the same thing. For countries that are willing to negotiate, right? And it's a big deal. This is all trade wars. You look at history when we're talking about trade, banking, this is a big deal. And we're talking about America, number one consumer, and China, number one producer. I'm not going to say continent. There's another continent that I think produces a lot more, exports a lot more. But we're talking about number two, China. And this is what everything is about. China has been on our butts, no diddy, pause, for decades now. And they're producing, we're consuming, right? So we see an issue there, and that's why these tariffs are so important. And well, what's going to happen tomorrow? It's like a soap opera with China and America right now. Well, what would you name this reality show right now between countries? Who knows? Anyways, look, investors got to know this because this is incredibly important. We see how the stock market just got driven. I'm not even going to say that. Just got driven down, bad. Let's talk about worst stock market days in history. Now, the headlines, please, a lot of people abuse these headlines. So, look, it could be our entire days. Well, who are we talking about? What index are we talking about? The S&P? Are we talking about the Dow Jones, the Nasdaq? And also, are we talking about points, right? So don't let the headlines take you on a whirlwind, right? You got to know what's really going on, and that's why we're here. That's exactly why we're here. What do we think is going to come of these tariffs? All the economists are saying it was a bad idea. Don't do it. And I know he's leveraging this, and it would some say this is market manipulation at the highest level. At the highest level, we have once again a person holding the highest office in this country doing some Sam Bankman-Fried type stuff. Like we're talking some big fraudsters type stuff. And we're not even talking about the meme coin that they did during the inauguration. Anyways, that's another conversation, right? Or like the Hawk Tour girl with her meme coin as well, and that was just a complete rug pull, and that's just moving money around. Anyways, what do we think's really going to happen? Do we think we're going to push lower into, let's say, a recession, which that brings us to some other topics here that I'm extremely excited to get to because I'm happy that they finally said this word, and I'm happy that someone in particular said it. and it's important who said it. But let's keep going. Let's keep going. Like tariffs, Trump's tariffs, trade war tariffs, they're a big deal. We're going to monitor them every single day. What it feels like, I know I said I was going to get to the next topic, but look, what it feels like is we're going through a nationalistic period where we're trying to bring manufacturing back to America. I don't know if that is actually true, right? That may be something said, and it may happen down the road. And I'll tell you also how I believe this manufacturing is really going to get spurred. I just don't know if it's necessarily correlated to this administration or with anyone's administration. I think that is more of a push on the corporate side. So I don't know what's being promised for. It hasn't even been 90 days, all right? And it's a soap opera. It's a reality show. It's one of his reality shows. But I do see manufacturing coming back. So let's say we do get very nationalistic and we really only buy, right? We have these extremely high tariffs. So if you want something foreign, it's got foreign prices, right? And that's who knows how much, right? By the time the tariffs iron out, 100% to 200%, 300, 400, 500%, right? So they make it so difficult to buy, let's say, a foreign laptop or something like that. So we bring jobs back to America and let's say semiconductors, which we're already doing. We're already building semiconductor factories and stuff like that. But we got to think about what else, right? I really believe we're going to have a lot of electricians and possible trades. Electricians and possible trades and the energy space, just the overall energy space. I think there's going to be a lot of workers in that. We already said semiconductors. I think there's going to be a lot of laborers when it comes to the road system, maybe high-speed rail, right? Things like that. I think eventually, that boom needs to be fueled and has to have liquidity. So where is that going to come from, right? And it's going to be a lot of tech. So all the tech bros, Elon and his friends, and everyone else in Silicon Valley just dumping, right? Sensors, everything on all this stuff, right? Smart cities. We already saw some weird stuff happen with some of the fires and some of these layouts for smart cities. And you have this stuff in LA with the Olympics. You had a smart city layout for Hawaii. I don't know. But regardless, we're going to a future like that. So I see a lot of manufacturing coming through that, and I don't like to say but, and I believe that may be after a trade war. The trade war kind of comes down and things relax a little bit, right? That the smoke settles a little bit. Maybe it gets intense. Maybe there is a war conflict, right? There's a little bit movement of stuff here and there. You got defense companies making their money. Oh, we won this, whatever shakes out. But if they can make a deal and they can make things work, then we move into, okay, well, we've made X amount of money. Let's go ahead and start putting this money into the country, which would be great. But who knows, right? I'm not the doom and gloom. Look, I'm not the doom and gloom. I'm just a veteran that knows history, believes that they know a little glimmer of history, the smallest glimmer, if that. And things do repeat in weird ways. But I'm not going to say that they're stemming from tariffs at all or that they're Trump's fault or anything like that. But it's just interesting tracking history and where we could go from here and how far China wants to take things and how far we want to take things. Because China's, they got 4 times the population that we do. Like we said previously, they're a producer economy. We're a consumer economy. We have 1/4 of what they have. But we do have a lot of military. They could gain a lot of military personnel as well. And if we're talking about aircraft, ships, and stuff like that. So how do we make money from that, right? I mean, that's the real question. Look, that's the real question. You guys can be scared if you guys want, but we can always move to another country where there's no war going on and we hang out by the beach and just wait it out, right? We could do that. But we're trying to figure out how to make money off of this, right? So tariffs, other countries, nationalists, right? Would it make sense to focus on American companies? There's a reason why we passed the CHIP Act and we gave X amount of money to a certain company, a certain American company, like Intel and like Dell, right? These old dinosaur companies that are not doing well because of a reason. But now that we're getting nationalistic and we want to bring jobs back to America, we're giving them money for chips. Chips are incredibly important. Chips are computing. Chips may be even equated to people because they can think and they can solve and they can give commands and take commands and XYZ. So we really have to consider that, where most of the chips are made in Taiwan, off of the coast of China. China doesn't recognize that Taiwan's a separate country. They're like, Taiwan's our country. Like, Taiwan's a part of us. They're an island. They make over 90% of the chips in the world. In the world, they have these huge machines that take so long to make and so much money to make, and they're so precise. So we're trying to bring that here to America, right? Americans will do those jobs. I believe Americans are smart enough. We will learn and we will adapt and overcome. It's the people that don't want to, right? It's the old theory of, well, this is what I used to do for this long and I don't want to change. Look, I'm sorry you mined coal for 30 years, but you should have moved up to a supervisor role or something, project management, coal management, whatever, part management, something. So we can move you into a new role. Like if you're moving into solar, we can move you into a management role. You don't necessarily have to know the specific ins and outs, but also we can teach them. So there should be some type of transition program for people, especially we have so many people losing their jobs right now. And since COVID, I think a lot of the numbers are skewed, unemployment numbers, stuff like that. So we really, really, really have to focus on transitioning Americans into these skilled jobs, working at semiconductor factories, data centers. Cybersecurity is incredibly important, and being a technician too, not just the cloud stuff, but if you're good at connecting stuff. Look, if you fix your mom's DVR one time, in like '04, right, and or you fix the Wi-Fi. Look, go be a tech. Go make some money. Go learn how to work on these stacks, on these huge data racks and data centers, and go learn a skill. Go learn how to splice fiber cables. I was doing that, and I don't know, 10 years ago, right? Something like that. It's cool. You learn a skill, get good at it, and just run for the races. Get enough experience, and then have your own business. Split off and have your own business, or stay, get benefits, get a great pension, get benefits for your kids and your family, dental, all that stuff, right? Enjoy it or not, right? Get a little bit of experience, 5-10 years. Same thing with the military. Get your experience, get your quals, and then bounce, get out of there, right? Get your benefits, do as much as you can, and then you have control with your own business. Maybe you take a team of you guys, 5 or 6 of you guys, hey, let's go start our own business. Let's invest our money and go do that instead. You have way more freedom, XYZ. So look, get creative. Think of the future. Think of where we're going with this. So energy, nuclear, including, you could be a nuclear tech, right? You could be a high voltage electrician. You could be hanging out at helos, right? Working on electrical lines. They make pretty good pay as well. So there's a plethora of things. Look forward and think of where we're actually going, right? Think of these sci-fi novels, these futuristic places. Think of Tokyo if you've ever been. Think of these, just think of Blade Runner type stuff. Like, that's where we're going. All right, it may not be in 5 years or 10 years, but it's coming here. So look, if I make it this simple, my background is as an electrician in the military, working on different types of birds. So I know about energy, right? I worked on off-grid power systems as well. This is as easy as it. And Warren Buffett, actually, now that I think about it, gave me the framework for this question. He gave me through Home Depot. You may know the quote I'm going to talk about, but it's as simple as this. Do you think humans are going to use more electricity? Yes or no? Okay. So where are we going to generate this? That's the next question. I'm telling you, it's not solar. It's not wind. It's not hydro. It's not hamsters. Sorry, can't get this one up. It's not hamsters. It's nuclear. That's the answer. I've been saying it for 2 years now. It's nuclear. So, investing in nuclear and maybe getting a business in nuclear, right? And that government contracts. We also got to talk about that. Government contracting. Pretty much the government's going through deregulation right now. That's what's going on. If you guys don't know already, The government is going through deregulation of everything. They're trying to deregulate everything to make it easier for their friends and families and businesses and corporations to do what they want, have their tax advantages, make their money. Because that's the point, right? They're trying to make their money, fatten their pockets, while us, the regular people, we're over here fighting for toilet paper at the local grocery store and water. All right, look, I need to stay on topic, and y'all just bring me every time. But look, this is number one thing you can't forget. Look, like and subscribe. All right, hit like and subscribe. Follow wherever you're watching this. Right, we broadcast this live. Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. Where else? Facebook. Come on. So please like and subscribe, follow, so I know I'm making valuable content. We make this every single week, bring you information that is valuable to save you money, energy, and time on your investments. So let's keep it moving. Man, I could go all day about that stuff, but look, I'm going all day, all right? Look, we have gold hitting record highs, all right? That's what I'm talking about. Look, I love gold. Look, physical gold, number one. First of all, gold has different ways differently. Troy ounces, right? Do your research on gold. You can buy gold at Costco. Sells out really quickly. But I feel like in the next year or two, a lot of people are going to be selling gold locally. And I've spoken to a guy who collected gold before, and he finds that as a very good way to build up your collection. Just like anything else, stocks, real estate, in a downturn, people are going to sell XYZ more often and usually at a discount, so buy it up. So physical gold is obviously the best, and then get it locked up however possible. That's your prerogative. Don't be buying this paper stuff, man. Don't be buying the paper of 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 the gold, the derivatives that just keep going, right? Robert Kiyosaki talks about this a lot. He talks about he buys the gold mine. I believe Robert Kiyosaki and his company, they had the largest gold deposit found in China, and then China confiscated it. That's wild. See, Robert Kiyosaki, he was in Vietnam too. He was a helicopter pilot. His bird went down 3 times, I believe. Bro, y'all took this man's whole gold project going on over there? That's wild. That is wild. Like, that's more than fighting actions. That's just... But anyways, that's their beef. So gold. It's heading record highs. Get your gold up. That's all I'm saying. Get your gold up. Throughout history, it's been a currency. It's the only currency that has survived. All right, let's just say that. And that's like all I gotta say. So it's a good store of value. The simplest way of thinking of it is storing $30,000 worth, let's just say $30,000 worth of gold right now, whatever you could use to trade, however much that is to trade to get a vehicle that is worth $30,000, you get this price point. You'd be able to do the same equivalent in 10, 20, 30 years, right? So it holds its value. It's a store of value. Let's keep it moving. Look, I don't got to beat the dead horse here about gold, all right? But it's hitting the numbers. It's hitting some numbers. So gold goes up when there's uncertainty in all markets, number one. And what else? Well, if there's conflict, like in the Middle East, that's uncertainty. You'll also can have oil go up as well. But oil and gold. All right, let's talk about BRICS. Do y'all finally believe me about BRICS? That BRICS is not just an economic coalition, that they're just getting together to hang out and talk about economics, Russia and China. Let's just hang out. Since 2008, they've just been hanging out while they have swiftly come off the system, and come off the dollar. So what does this mean for global markets? For everyone? Well, the world has been on the reserve currency of the dollar, and it's up. That's what BRICS has been saying. It's up. And we're gonna come together and we're gonna create a solution that works for us, because we don't want to keep supporting y'all and what you guys have going on. So they can only do it for so long. And I will say that is one of the reasons why America is what it is now, is because of that move. You made everyone use your currency to move their weight around. You know what I mean? Like, how are you not going to be the best benefactor from that? That's neither here nor there. It's in between somewhere. But let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. Look, I talk about BRICS almost every week. All right. And they're moving forward with the new reserve currency to weaken the dollar. We know that. Digital, they talked about the BRICS dollar. There's possibly the works between China and Saudi Arabia on a digital currency. All right. So we're going to keep our eyes on that because, as we know, studying a lot of history, a lot of wars were started, if not all, with some relation to banking. Right? Banking, trade, these go hand in hand. These have been here for hundreds of years. Some type of trade, currency, whatever that is. But look, let's talk about fruits. Apple is facing a production nightmare with tariffs at 104% with China. As we heard, 104%, right? How can this change everything? Well, this directly impacts tech stocks, supply chain, and consumer pricing, of course. But there's a $600 potential iPhone price hike and supply chain shock, of course. Right? Where do you think your iPhone's made? In the parts. Let's be real. All right. So this is an immediate risk to Apple because I believe Ian, the master investor, was talking about they should have been planning this a long time ago because there were tariffs and the trade war started when Trump was in his first term. That this Trump's only leg to run on. He has no other policies. Tell me any other policies that Trump's got other than I'm going to go negotiate a trade war. Pretty much. Which I'm not here to say that is the wrong thing to do or the right thing to do. Coming from where he comes from, real estate development mogul, you have to be hard on negotiations. I'm extremely hard in negotiations in my real estate business. Extremely. I'm on the phone with a lady today about a lease for a client. And she's talking about, well, I don't think the client's gonna want to take them because of the dogs. Oh, well, how many dogs do they? Just give me a round. I'm like, look, who has the authorization to make this call? Is it you or the client? Are you gonna pass this offer to your client or not? Or are you gonna make the call right here? She's like, well, if they had maybe a small. I'm like, yo, I don't have time. Lady, are you gonna yes or no? Look, all that to say is they should have got to it. Negotiations. This was going in with the trade wars in his first term. Apple should have immediately said, red flag. China it's gonna get too hot in China, man. Too hot, if you know what I mean. It's gonna get too hot there. We gotta figure it out. We gotta figure this market out. Because you can't have 1 foot over there and 1 foot over here. You can though, if you're certain families and certain businesses. But Apple, you're not doing it. Especially with the CEO, you ain't doing it. Too slow. Too slow. Ian, I'm with you on that. Ian, the master investor, when we're talking about Apple CEO, yeah, too slow. You're losing it, right? You're getting out of 2 techs, 2 index. You're getting kicked out. Microsoft is beating you. What's going on? You have no innovation with the phones. That's why I stopped using iPhone since iPhone 4. I was in boot camp and I left out of boot camp. And my girl got me. I gave her all these instructions. I said, yo, give me this, blah, 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 blah. Boom. Used it. That was it. That was the last time. Ever since then, I went to Android-based phones. We got Google. Google's coming out with some great stuff. Microsoft. What if they came out with the phone or product, right? They had the previous Cortana. That was a while ago. Huawei. Right? Maybe not in the US though, but abroad, Asian markets, they could crush that there. And if Google, Microsoft, and Samsung are crushing it, well, maybe not Samsung. Who knows, right? But Apple, you gotta go. Look, that's the only fruit I'm not eating. That's it. Apple, you're done. I hope you make a turnaround. I really do because I'm not gonna say iPhone products, Apple products are bad. They're cool products. The first computer. Not that I ever used, definitely not. But the first computer I got familiar with was one of those. Remember those those Macs with the colors. They're about this big, right? But they got the colored backs on it, right? So that was cool in school in like 4th grade or something like that. I got to experience that. I thought Macs were cool, but my brain just doesn't work the best with that type of interface. And I like the colors. I like the ease of it. I like the GUI, the graphic user interface, but the innovation is super slow. It took y'all how long to get to USB-C? Really? Y'all had like 47 chargers, different types, before anything. And then Android phones could charge back to back. If your phone is dying, your friend could give you a charge. That's pretty cool. We had underwater features way before y'all. Take pictures under. People are like, you can take your phone? I'm like, yes, what are you talking about? It's 2015. Your phone can't go in the water? That's crazy. Anyways, look, I don't mean. I know a lot of y'all right now are probably watching this on an iPhone. I appreciate you watching. First of all, I appreciate y'all watching this regardless. Whatever you're watching on, a Rock, old Lenovo, who cares? A BlackBerry, a Sidekick, those were dope, right? A Sidekick, whatever you got, whatever you want. Look, I appreciate it. But Apple, you got to turn this ship around. You got to tip it around. All right, look, this one is breaking, and this one is what I was really excited for in this episode, and it's to talk about Jamie Dimon issuing a dire warning, a dire warning about tariff policies that could break the U.S. economy. Hinting about possible recession. The word has been out there in the news a couple months ago, and it's finally resurfacing, and I'm happy because recessions are finally realized about 18 months after they actually started and occurred. All right, y'all, look at the data. That's all it says. I've been saying, I was saying this 18 months ago. All right, y'all. It's like every 10 years we forget that we're supposed to get a recession. Just with this system economically, life cycle wise, that's just what it is. All right. So this is an immediate, right? And we have bank reporting this Friday, I believe. So that's a big deal. If they report under, the markets may dip even further. If they report extremely high, it could be good for the market, right? You have to realize that this whole market is human psyche sentiment. You're literally faking out the masses. That's how you have to think. How would the regular person think? Based off of this news that they heard. We literally had the stock market going crazy over the last 2 days over rumors. And there's a saying we've got. It's buy the rumor, sell the news. It's like we hear the rumors, grumbling, we make moves, and then by the time that makes it to the news, we're already selling. You know what I mean? By the time it's already been solidified and people are sure we are going this way, it's already too late. The flip has already been made. The money's already been made. You're not going to make money on the up. It's once they call it, once it's on the news, it's too late. So you got to make your move on the rumor, which is non-official news, non-official sources, but reading the market too. Well, what is the market doing? Anyways, look. You have Jamie Dimon, who I told y'all last year, I believe it was last year or the year before, technically, sold X amount of stocks. Let's look it up. I'm a man. Let's look it up. Sales record. I'm about it right here. Let's find it. Wow, that was a lot of money. Jamie Dimon sold more than 866,000 shares valued at almost $250 million. All right, I told y'all that. And now, first of all, Jamie, we got a bone to pick for a few reasons. I believe he's an upstanding citizen. Sure, I don't know. Bane would probably, from Batman, would probably have a different idea. Who knows? But look, first of all, this guy comes out and says Bitcoin is pretty much for criminals. All right, that's number one. And then what? Your Eastern branch goes and buys a bunch of Bitcoin. Okay, pretty shady, right? Pretty shady. Number two, you sell all these shares. Hey, that's your own prerogative. Then number three, now you're coming out about recession. Now, at this point, which I get it. You're a top tier banker. What you say is going to move markets. But a little shady. And that's the red flag I was telling everyone. Look, you have to look at what they're doing to a certain extent. You have Warren Buffett sitting on the most money he's ever sat on in cash. Mark Zuckerberg, Jamie Dimon. Who else? Name them. They sold. I'm telling you. Follow the money. Why else would they sit on cash unless, hey, I'm going to have an opportunity to buy something at a cheap price is going to come up. Right? You know before you go to the swap shop, you need to have some cash on you. And you're going to get that cash however. You got to sell a TV, a VCR, some old tires and wheels you had in the garage. Whatever it is, you got to go with some cash. So if you know the yard sale's coming up, you're going to have cash on you. That's what they did. That's what Warren Buffett did, Mark Zuckerberg, Jamie Dimon did, and more in those billionaire and millionaire classes. They're timing the top. It's not that crazy. It's not that crazy. They're timing the top. We had the election. We had the holiday season. They knew that we're going to get into another trade war. They knew that. Trump started in his term. What do you think was going to happen? You think the beef was going to be over? And it's his only tactic. It's his skill. He is a negotiator. That's just what it is. So I don't know why we want to look the other way. And here's the thing: when people think the market can never stop going up, that's a red flag. When people think that the market can never stop going down, that's a red flag. You're literally trying to Marshall Falk. You're trying to sidestep these people one step ahead of them. That's it. If we're the 20%, they're the 80%. That's it. The masses. And we were those people too at one time. We weren't watching shows like this. We weren't reading books. We weren't being educated on this. We didn't really care about our investments like that. And that's okay. But that's the advantage we have to take, is we have knowledge and speed to act on this. So if we have all this knowledge here, we already know what's going on, and we can see what the average trader is going to do. What is your mom going to think about the stock market? Because she may have a 401k or something, right? Something like that. Or what is your cousin going to think about that? Or what is the lunch lady? Or what is the police officer? Or what is the military member? What are they actually going to think about when they hear this on the news? How's the news going to spin it? What is the narrative? What else is going on, right? And we bring all that together and it makes sense, and it helps us understand what Mr. Market is going to do. Are they going to be greedy, or are they going to be fearful? And we want to do the opposite of what they're doing, and we want to correlate that with what some of these bigwigs are doing, because we can see a lot of where their money's going in their trades. That's the thing about these big whales, is that they have to file all this stuff. Usually, politicians different. There's a lag, but they have to file all this stuff because they're moving so much money in these markets that it would wreck a whole market if they didn't either offload it or unload it, right? And they have to file, of course. But we use that to our advantage. Now, we're going to know that with maybe a little bit of head start before it gets to the news, which by that time, prices went up, right? Let's say a stock was $50. We knew XYZ that it was going to go up for whatever reason, right? It came out $50. We're buying at $50, right? The news gets wind of it by X amount of time. They verify it. Once they verify it and people are, this is absolutely sure, they're already too late, because we took the gamble already, and we're sure using more data points, but we're just more sure. By the time the news already gets it, it's already priced in. It's already $75. Boom, now you buy it. I bought it at $75. It was up to 76, and then retraces down a little bit. You actually lose money. You didn't make your money from the initial movement that you possibly could have gotten prepared by watching a show like this, reading a little bit, having some interest in where your money's going, just seeing stuff. It could even be stuff in your profession. As military, there was a lot of stuff that we knew that could benefit when it comes to stocks. There's a lot of stuff that you can know. That's all I'll say. That's all I'm going to say. All right? That's all I'm going to say. And that brings me to another very, very simple question that is similar to one that I asked earlier about electricity. When it comes to defense and defense companies, do you think we're going to ramp up war in the next, let's say, year, 2 years, right, with all the conflicts going on? Just a yes or no in general. We don't have to get into the details. You just think we may ramp up in war efforts, right? They look at the troop movements. Look at they just moved another carrier air group, right? Another strike group for what reason? That's weird. That's weird. Cardi B. That's weird. So do you think that we're gonna have more or less defense, whether it's governments, right, military, or whether it's contractors? Yeah or nay? Okay, then maybe you would, whichever way you said to that, maybe you would invest that way. That's not financial advice, just so you know. Right? That's how easy it is to think about these things. Are we going to have more or less of this? So Warren, I believe it's Warren, he has this quote talking about Home Depot. He's like, well, Home Depot was just easy. Are going to work on their houses more or less? Like, are people going to own more homes? He's like, yes. So that's why I invested in Home Depot. It's as simple as that. You can have things that knock it out the park. Like, I would invest in Home Depot. Yes, more people are going to use Home Depot, sure. I think it's a great business, great company. But I don't think it has that high of a return. Now, a small cap defense company that works in drones or whatever XYZ that just won a contract or is about to win a contract but no one knows about it yet, that may be a better investment because that may have a 200 to 1 return versus Home Depot XYZ, right? But using that concept, I want to play games that I know I'm going to win at a high rate, at a 5 to 1. I'm not here to play this slow roll game. You know what I mean? I want the winners. Now, you have your core that they are the slow roll game. Let's say an Nvidia, a Google, a Microsoft, an Apple, right? Amazon, even Amazon. Let's leave it there. Those are, hey, I'm going to DCA into those companies. I'm going to dollar cost average every month X amount of dollars into that. But if you know things, if you can see trends, then trading gets different, right? You're doing option calls, you're doing major swing trades. Like I major swing trade before this end of year and at the end of this year too, where I saw this stuff coming. So let me sell my stuff, most of my stuff. You keep some stuff that you're going to diamond hand that you're going to keep forever. But hey, let me make some money on this because I came up on this. Make your money on it. It's a swing. It's a major swing trade. We're talking 6+ months, a year, 18 months, 24 months in the making. Not a day, couple days. All right, y'all. Let's keep it moving. I can keep going and going. But look, Jamie, I got a bone to pick with you. You sold all your stocks. You said Bitcoin was for criminals, and then your Eastern European branch, whatever it is, bought a bunch of Bitcoin. And now you're talking about recession. So what are we doing? What are we doing? What's the plan, Jamie? I want to know, right, what would you do? If you were Jerome Powell, what would you do, Jamie? I don't think he's going to respond. Because, I mean, not saying that he can respond. I don't know if he can respond technically. You know what I mean? But let's just say he's not Trump. He's not as bodacious as Trump. Trump would probably reply to me. You know, Trump, what would you do, Trump, if you were Jerome Powell? If you were in the Fed, what would you do? I want to hear it. I want to hear the negotiator. What would you do if you're Jerome Powell? All right, to save America, right? To make America homeowners again. Because we have home ownership rate going down in the 60%. Let's talk about that. But who's buying up a lot of these single-family homes? Corporations, big old corporations buying thousands of homes for cash. Anyways, let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. So look, we have China-U.S. trade war. It's still going crazy. We're talking about 104% on China and probably even more. Right? I'm telling you, it's just going to get to a point where getting something from China is going to be a luxury. Getting a finger trap is going to be a luxury. Man, Chinatown, they're about to put the prices up on everything. It's up. It is up. I'm telling you, you cannot get boba there for less than $40 with these markups anymore. And it's going to break our heart. So let's see what happens, though, this week. Let's actually see. But we have supply chain issues as well. And we think about, there's only 2 major companies that really do all shipping, right? So that's a big deal. What else we got? So the Fed, man, look, I'm not even going to talk about the Fed. Look, they're committed to hitting a 2% target for inflation. First of all, why is my money inflating at 2%? I don't think y'all getting raises at 2% half the time, right? So why did we even accept after we got off the gold standard in 1971 by Nixon. Nixon said it was temporary. He said, look, and if y'all hear this again in the future, Nixon said, we're going to decouple gold off of the dollar, which was the promise to be the federal reserve currency of the world. We're going to decouple it because we need money, because we're getting bled dry by Vietnam pretty much. But we're going to turn it back. It never went back. It never went back. And since then, inflation has been going crazy. So they're aiming for 2%, but it's not been 2%. So our money's deflating. So that's why investing is incredibly important, because we need to use compound interest and investing of our money over time to grow it. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to grow this wealth. We're trying to take $1 and make it into 5, pretty much. All right, man. What else we got going on? What else do we got going on? Hold up real quick. Yeah, a little sick. Came back from traveling. A little, not under the weather, but just a lot of drainage, you know? Anyways, I'm happy for y'all being here. Y'all are really going to like this next one. Why is the VA ending a program that helped over 17,000 loan recipients from foreclosure? Why? Does it cost too much money? So the VA is pulling the plug on a mortgage rescue program, and it saves people from losing their homes. And what do you think we're going to go into the next year and 2 years? More foreclosures. Defaults are going up. For people with cash, it's a great time. Get your butt in there. Go get those properties. People are going to sell them for pennies on the dollar. This is time to make your investments. Buy up the block. Buy what you can. However you can. Subject to lease options. Whatever you got. Make it work for you, though. But use this opportunity. Whether we're going into defaults or foreclosures, this program helps. And we're deleting it. Why? I'll tell you why. I have one main theory. Okay? But let's talk about what is it. VASP. I want you to think of VASP. Veterans Affairs Servicing Purchasing Program. It was launched in May of 2024. May of 2024. Hasn't even been a full year, right? And it helps veterans that have fallen behind on mortgage payments after the COVID forbearance era. Okay, so it allowed the VA to buy defaulted loans from servicers. Okay, so why is the VA buying defaulted loans from servicers? So let's break that down. So when you get a VA loan, you don't get it necessarily from the VA. The VA entitles a portion of it, right? They guarantee a portion of it. Now they're working with whoever your lender is. So let's say your lender is USAA, right? Please don't USAA. And anyways, just don't. Shop around. Always shop around. Look, so then VA guarantees that to USA. USA cuts your loan. Great. Congratulations, you're a homeowner. USA, what do they do before the ink even dries? They sell that loan. They put it on the secondary market and they sell it to someone else. They package it up. The main work was them getting you as a client, packaging it all up, and then it has a return. It has terms on it, in theory, and then they can sell it to someone else that services it. Or they may have a separate company that just services it, but hey, they sell it to another company. Boom. Company XYZ. And you find out when you call in, oh, this company changed. This isn't USAA anymore. It happens all the time. I promise you, all the time. And there's issues with that as well because of insurance. I had a client where their mortgage got sold on the secondary market and their insurance didn't come over, so they had to get new insurance for the property. Weird. All right, but let's keep going. So look, it allowed the VA to buy these defaulted loans from servicers. That's exactly what we just described. Restructure them into low interest, affordable mortgages, and directly service the loans. Okay, so the VA stepped in abruptly, ending its previous relief tool, the partial claims program. So that left about 40,000 vets stranded in no way to get current, right? Up to date on their mortgage. That's getting current. So we have 17,000 members that have been helped by WASP in less than a year. Less than a year. Now, it wasn't perfect, of course, but it worked, and it gave struggling veterans a chance to stay in their homes. A crazy lower rate. They could have a 5.7, and they say, hey, look, we're going to give you 2.5. Take this 2.5 and just right? Now, I think that's why, in my theory, I think that's why they're canceling it. Okay, so stay with me. You got to stay with me. All right. So, why is the VA canceling the program just 1 year after the launch and there's not a replacement? Okay. They say it's because the VA isn't meant to be a mortgage restructuring service. And the question is, well, if not them, who? Who is supposed to protect the VA loan after they sold it to someone else? Let the VA handle it. They're the one who guaranteed the loan. And then what? And then you sell it to servicers, to these secondary crackheads, pretty much. And they do what they want. They will foreclose on that property. I'm talking to not a client. I'm talking to someone right now, and they're a military veteran going through it right now. Going through foreclosure. Days away. They are days away. All right. So you have Fannie Mae. These are other agencies, right? Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA. They have permanent loss mitigation options. So why are veterans being left without this program? Less than a year later, if it's helped so many members, because they're not supposed to be a restructuring, right? Well, I mean, by that, they might as well not even guarantee loans then. Is that where they're going? No more VA loans? That's a question. That's a big question right there. If the military didn't provide a VA loan, would you still join the military? Now, I joined not knowing about the VA loan. Okay, so I would have went in regardless, right? Now, knowing what I know now, though, that may be something to consider. But my question is that where we're going? So who is this really for? Who does this benefit? Right, we just talked about over 17,000 vets, loan recipients. That includes reservists, National Guard, active duty. That's why I don't like just saying vets. Right, the VA loan is not just for veterans. But who is this for? So veterans who use VA loans and fell behind due to hardship, particularly after COVID. That's who the VASP is for. But what is the change for? Why are we who would this benefit? Who would canceling a program like this for VA loan recipients going through foreclosure, missing payments? Who would this benefit? Interesting. Okay. Well, who would it benefit? Let's talk about the steps. Well, it's going to bring us to foreclosures increasing. We're going to have more defaults. Period. That's it. So who do foreclosures benefit? They could benefit investors like myself, that you may have cash ready, you may know how to negotiate XYZ. It's a win-win for everyone. Great. They don't have to go through auction, through foreclosure, that whole process, and you may be able to walk out with a deal for them and a deal for you. I wouldn't do it any otherwise. If you don't get a deal for the client in any way, it is not, I do not do business. Cannot do business. It's got to be a win-win. They have to win. All right. Who would benefit from that other than small investors like myself? Big investors, we're talking tens of thousands of defaults just over spread out of possible time. Think of 1,000 properties. You have groups that will buy 1,000 properties at a wave of a wand. All medium price, 240, 300, 350, 400, 450, 500. So do the math on that, on how much capita that is, right? Well, housing experts and executives, they're all warning on this. Finally. All right, so let's get ready for it, investors and those going through it. You also have to going through foreclosure and missing payments and hard times. You also have to get ready for it. This isn't just, hey, we're on the investor side. If you're in the position as well, you got to get prepared. You got to be ready. How are you going to get out of foreclosure? If you have time is your best friend, because you can go through all these processes. You can get with a foreclosure attorney, you can get foreclosure advice, and you can possibly walk away at a benefit or possibly keep that property and just completely get out of foreclosure. Work your way out of it in some way, right? Because people really underestimate how much that they can negotiate. But with time and with the right advice and the right guidance, you can make it happen. All right, so why may they actually be ending the VASP program, which helped over 17,000 VA loan recipients out of foreclosure? Number one, political pressure, right? Some Republican lawmakers argue that VASP VAS puts taxpayer money at risk since the VA holds the loan. All right? I get that. Now, don't forget the VA originally guaranteed the loan before they sold it on the secondary market to some crackhead servicers. All right, let's be real. Number 2, strategic. Is the government preparing for a wave of foreclosures and quietly backing out of responsibility? They see, shoot, we are going to have a bunch of defaults. We know a lot of them are going to be VA. There was a time where they were a quarter. VA was a quarter during the last large wave. So they're saying, hey, we don't want to get the VA and the government involved. If you guys lose your money, you guys lose your money. That will help you guarantee and get into the property, but we cannot help after that to keep the ball rolling as much as y'all would like us to. All right. Now the timing is suspicious. Why kill the program just as delinquency rates start rising up again? It hasn't even been a year. So they opened the program up thinking, we're not going to go through a downturn. Oh, we're just going to help a few people. We're going to pretend to. And then once they realize, yo, this thing is working way too well. 17,000, we're about to clear 34 by next quarter. Okay, 34,000. They're like, we got to cut this. We're taking way too much liability and way too much of this from them. They got the loan, right? That's how they're thinking. That's all I'm saying is we have to think how they're thinking. So, like I said, that's the timing. That's suspicious, right? Cardi B, that's real suspicious. Now, could it be that big trouble is coming in housing and that this move is a way to clear the books before it hits? That's what I think. That's what I really think. So veterans deserve the same protection as other homeowners, right? Fannie Mae, FHA, Freddie Mac. And if the VA won't provide that, then who's going to provide that? We have to protect ourselves because these investors, they will come and swoop up. And I'm not talking about local investors like you and I, right, where it's a win-win. They will make it where you do not win and you cannot fight, and they don't care. They don't have a soul. They don't have a soul. Don't forget that. They just want to make that profit off of it, okay? So ending the VAS program without a replacement isn't sound policy. It's foreclosure death sentence for thousands. And we're going to see that. Mark my words. Mark my words. We're in spring of 2025. Mark my words. All right. But look, one thing I'll tell you to not forget is to tap like and subscribe to support and stay up to date. Please. That's the only way that I know y'all actually like what I'm making. Like and subscribe. Follow whatever channel you're watching this. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Whatever you got, this could be on DirecTV. Who knows? It could be on your DVR from '06. You know what I mean? Like it, follow. I need to know that y'all like this material, right? That it brings you value. So let's keep it moving. We have oil prices going pretty crazy. I mean, they're crashing. Oil and gold, pretty volatile, but they're volatile during volatile times. Energy's energy, though. Think about it. Oil crashing, that sounds pretty good. Cool, buy it up. What's the fair market value that you think of for oil? Buy it up. I'm telling you, do the opposite of what they're doing. I know it's down 20% in 1 week. That sounds like a discount on oil, depending on which company. Now, you probably wouldn't want to do BP or something. I just saw a report that in Venezuela off the coast, they got denied by Trump or something, right? So maybe American owned, right? Look at, I don't know, do your research on the Bushes. I don't know. Look, that's your business. That's all I'm saying. Earlier I was talking about BRICS and the BRICS dollar. Now we have BRICS talking about acceleration of gold acquisition. All right. If you have whole nations trying to acquire gold, maybe we should be acquiring gold, right? Maybe things are getting a little bit rocky. Maybe we may need to back something with gold again one day to make a new system or something like that. And then for us to trick us 30 years later and remove us off of this. Anyways, gold, if BRICS is getting gold, to me, that's a good signal. And it goes along with the anti-dollar narrative that they have. They have the BRICS dollar that they're working on. They're most likely working on a digital currency. Why not stack us up with some gold here? Some physical gold, not the derivatives. Stay away from the derivatives unless you can do delivery on demand, whatever. All right. We have, talking about gold, we have the digital gold king themselves, Bitcoin crashing just a few thousand in dollars, right? But to me, it's still extremely safe bet. I still love Bitcoin a lot. I love gold too, physical gold, but a lot of people have fear, they have FOMO. Should I buy in? Should I wait? Look, mark your numbers to buy in, stick to it, and do not get emotional. If they don't hit the numbers, they don't hit the numbers, all right? That's up to you. All right. Oh man. What else we got in there? We've had a crazy week. It feels like a soap opera. But let's actually talk about mortgage rates. That's what I want to talk about. So we had mortgage rates. We had a record low earlier this week. And then with all this tariff talk and fluctuations, now we're having an increase, right? An increase of rates. That's not what we want. We don't want an increase of rates. We went up 0.2% on the VA loan. We're looking at the 30-year fixed conventional loan, not the VA loan, the 30-year fixed conventional at 6.95, right? Almost 7%, while the 30-year VA loan is 6.45. That's a 0.5 different, half a point. That's a lot of money. Thank you for your service. Use your VA loan. Look, I'm telling y'all, okay? Look, I just told y'all. We went up a little bit. We have stuff going crazy with tariffs, with the stock market. Obviously, it would have been nice to lock in an interest rate a week ago, around the 4th, 5, 6, 7 days ago. But you got to move. This is how the market moves. You got to move. That's the thing. We can't just wait around all the time and think that the market's going to wait for you to sit around and just take your time for months. It's not going to happen. Got to jump on it. Diddy, no Diddy. No Diddy, pause. Oh, y'all messing with me. So look, keep an eye on the mortgage rates if you're in the market to buy. Every market is hyper-local as well, so please don't listen. Mortgage rates are obviously national, but when it comes to real estate numbers, metrics, if I talk about Denver numbers, they're Denver numbers, right? If I'm going to talk about nationwide, I'll tell you about nationwide, but nationwide is a gist. If you're really looking to buy and sell, you need a hyper-local report on even down to the zip code, even down to the neighborhood as well, to pull data on that specific area so that you can use that for your listing or to go out and buy. All right, but let's keep it moving. Apparently China has a rare earth weapon, whatever that means. But how can it cripple U.S. tech and defense? There's rare earth controls threatens global chip. We're talking about rare earth metals, right? And these are metals that go in all of these microchips. And if they only have them or they have a vast amount, they can definitely beat us by building these chips, right? For whatever reason. But look, it's a concern. Rare earth. All right, rare earth. Gold is great, but there are other plutonium, uranium. These are things that you can also look at companies to invest in. That's your prerogative, though, if you agree with that. Look, don't forget to tap that like and subscribe. Follow, right? Leave a comment, leave a question. If you're thinking about something, hey, I got this in my portfolio. Hey, I'm thinking about this. Hey, I'm thinking about this. Look, I want to know what you got going on. Comment it below. And if you have any questions about what we're talking about, right? Provide value. Ask a question below. Let's keep it moving. Look, oh man, we got copper crashing. Watch out with copper, because you got these crackheads that rip out copper from your properties and stuff like that. I've seen it on TV, and you see it in some neighborhoods. A lot of times just stuff just ripped out. But look, copper is also an indicator of certain things as well. But I'd rather hold gold than copper, and silver, by the way. But look, stagflation may be here. It may be America's new reality with how we're playing with inflation, with Fed rates, with the stock market right now. That's what it feels like. We're playing with it. No Diddy, pause. Feels like Monopoly. So, man, remember when inflation was transitory? Whatever that means, Mr. Powell, Jerome Powell, Federal Reserve Chair. Transitory. Look, if it was transitory, what stop did it get off at? Because it feels like it's still on the bus. We're still transiting with it, and we're trying to get it off the bus. So stagflation, look, we'd rather have inflation than stagflation. And we're having an issue with GDP where they're adjusting from 1.3 GDP growth to like negative 0.3 GDP growth. Think about, what does America export? What do we export? Music, fashion, kind of more like culture, right? What's cool? Hollywood. That was a whole thing after the war, right? Some folks made Hollywood and control a narrative in a certain way and then project that to the world. And that's how we have popularity and influence through culture. People know that is XYZ. Anyways, so we may be heading for stagflation. And you know what? It is what it is. Let's keep it moving. Because what are we going to do? Right? That's the thing. Is there's nothing for us to... We're not going to change it in a way. Our goal here is to learn what to do and how to swim in between these currents. Alright? Now, we have to talk about what may happen at the next Federal Reserve meeting with what we got going on right now. So, I'm looking at this chart right here, and let me try to share this with y'all. I want y'all to see it. Just so y'all know. Okay. We're going to share that one. Okay. Also share tab. Chrome tab. Boom. Okay, look. We're going to share this right here. Look. We have a 17.3% chance of a rate cut, of a 25 basis point rate cut. That doesn't relate to quarter point at all. Now, yesterday we had a 44% chance, 44.5 yesterday. That was the 8th of April. It's the 9th of April, and we have a 17.3. But all this wild whipsaw that we got going on, right? Now we have an 82.7 chance of no rate cut with this next meeting on the 7th of May. So in about a month, right? We've got some time. Now it's going to change. We have content weekly. So I'll update this number. You guys are going to see a change. All right. I just wanted y'all to know. That if y'all are waiting for rate cuts, 17.3% chance of us getting a rate cut as of right now. All right, y'all. Just so y'all get that. Cool. All right, let's keep it moving. So Amazon's China dependency could spell disaster, right? What investors need to know about this. A lot of people don't know Amazon. They're running chips. They have AWS, which is a cloud service. That's where they make a lot of their bread from. Not necessarily from Amazon itself, but they work hand in hand. You have to think about who's the number one seller. It's China. What do you think? How do you think Amazon feels about this? They're like, how is this going to affect our business? Dramatically in their trade channels. Amazon's a household name, and it's connected into the global supply distribution network, just like UPS and FedEx, but it's Amazon. All right. Now, nearly 50% of Amazon's marketplace sellers are based in China. That's a fact, all right? This is an active threat due to the tariff. So what are they going to do, right? How do you think that may affect Amazon's stock, though? Amazon has other things as well. They have entertainment. But how do you think this would affect Amazon's stock if their marketplace in China was disrupted? All right, let's think about that. Man, I'm getting sickly. But we still got to keep going. And look, there's a treasury sell-off that could signal the next financial crisis. Apparently, we had some bonds for sale. No one wanted to buy the bonds, which is a red flag. But look, there's massive treasury liquidation that's tied to dollar scarcity. If liquid can't flow, if we have no liquidity, no currency moving, we got a problem when the riverbed dries up. Okay, so we'll keep tracking liquidity. But remember, all banks were a part of major wars for a certain reason. I'll leave that right there. I'm not going to say who, what families benefited from both sides of the war, of both wars. I don't know. But do your own research for sure. So China vows to fight to the end. This tariff war threatens your investments directly if you're invested in the stock market and real estate. But I always knew China was ready to fight to the end. Why wouldn't there? They got a lot of the same blood that we do. I knew we had issues with China when back in 2013, you're at the air wing, you're using the restroom, and in front of the urinals they have Chinese aircrafts, Chinese ships, Chinese this, Chinese that, Chinese this, so that we could familiarize ourselves with these aircrafts and with what they have. This was 2013. Ask any aviation maintainer that was in the military, and they may have had those signs there. Somewhere, they may have seen it. We're in 2025. So I know China's ready to fight to the end. Their ship building capability is 350 times maybe. Let's just cap it at 300. 300 times. 300 times. Not 300%. 300 times. There's a difference. Not 300%. 300 times. Y'all get that? Not 3%. Not 30%. Not 300%. 300 times. All right, y'all get that? Shipbuilding capability. That's why the chips are so important, because we need compute power. Because these chips are going in all the missiles, all the ships, all the robots that Elon's going to be peddling to the government soon. These chips are human minds. They're computing. They could do tasks. So that's what this is all about. China, they are going to fight to the end, for sure. They sent an air balloon here. Look, when was the last time? Come on. China sent an air balloon, bro, across the world, and no one saw it except last minute. Come on now, that's just what was it? Or was it someone in Canada? Someone in Canada blew it up and sent it over? Come on. In San Diego, when I was stationed in San Diego, NAB, Westside, if you know, you know. You know the condos down there. You got Chinese looking into the compound all the time. You know, certain stuff that we got to make sure it's undercover or it's not out of its case. You know, we do a lot of dog and pony shows. We got to bring out this capabilities. I'm like, you know, we got XYZ looking from those towers right there right there. So man, let's keep going. Look, how do I know that China vows to fight to the end? I went on deployment with someone of Chinese descent that got picked up for espionage. Right? We're talking access. We're on a special part of a base. Special part, special forces only. She has access to all of this. We're talking names, this, that, and she got picked up. So look, I know the Chinese. They will do anything. They will send Ricky Tan out here to try to destroy us. You know what I mean? If they send Ricky Tan's ass out here, we got to do what we got to do, right? All right, let's keep it going. Look, they will fight though, so know that Taiwan is probably gonna get taken soon. They're doing drills around Taiwan, and it's like, I think we're coordinated though. It's plain nice though, because if they cut us off, Trump would lose himself. So they're letting us build some of our factories and get things rolling just enough, and then they'll make their move, I believe. Now, if they're really malicious, they'll make the move before we're ready, and they're like, nah, screw y'all. This is real war. That's I feel like how we'll know. If it's cordial and it's 2 years from now we got factories up and running in Ohio and Arizona and New Mexico and Texas and stuff, then I know that they were shaking hands and cutting deals. But if tomorrow China says, nah, screw you guys, we don't care if you guys are up on manufacturing, this is war. You guys are going to have a shortage on chips, and we're going to win, because we're going to take Taiwan, and we're going to take all of these. Mainly it's the complicated devices that they need to make this, the equipment, right? But let's keep going. We know Chinese are fighters. Watch out, Ricky Tan. But anyways, we already talked about not grips. Please, not grips. We already talked about bricks. Please, watch out with those grips. But we already talked about grips. Bro, what is going on? Alright, we already talked about bricks, acquiring gold, and talking about coming off the dollar standard, the dollar reserve system. They've been doing this since '08. This isn't new stuff. But why are they accumulating gold? That is something to think about. Gold has hit highs, as we talked about. It's clearing 3,000. It may be overvalued, so don't necessarily go buy gold because it's going up. But what is the value? What is the value? We need to think about this. And if we have countries like America trying to stock up our reserve possibly in bricks, trying to do gold acquisition, then we may know that gold is going to drive up higher and not down in the near future. In that case, sure, if you think so, buy now before the majors start buying. right? Because they're going to buy hundreds of millions of gold, right? And this is something I wouldn't expect at all, but Elon Musk criticizes U.S. tariffs, and he faces mockery from a White House advisor. I mean, his warnings were dismissed as, quote, a tech elite whining, right? Which, I mean, he's the richest man on earth, right? Well, what do we think, Musk fans? Do we think he should be criticizing Trump and the tariffs, or do we think maybe he's doing that because he has incentive? He's in Tesla, he's in these other companies that are public companies that have stocks that are being greatly affected by tariffs. And Elon obviously sold a bunch of cars in China too, but China's not messing with Tesla not much. And you have a lot of Americans here not messing with Tesla either. But in China, you have BYD running the game. Way better car than Tesla, supposedly. So what do we think? Do we think Elon and Trump may differ here? That's something to definitely look at. Now, in real estate, we have warning signs going on with defaults and delinquencies going up, right? So this is an opportunity for a lot of investors to do a win-win deal on possible pre-foreclosures, foreclosures, short sales, things like that, and just people that are behind and don't want to get into that pre-foreclosure or foreclosure phase at all. Make use of this time. If you know a dip is coming, have your cash ready, have your mentality ready, know who you're going to work with, focus on your areas, and when the opportunities come, do what you got to do. All right. Oh man, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Obviously, the stock market has been going wild, and that's the main thing right now. Now, a lot of people haven't been talking about crypto, which I think is for a reason. But we got companies like XRP, Solana, obviously Bitcoin, ETH, stuff like that. So, what about some American-based companies? Since, like I mentioned, we're getting very nationalist, and we're trying to bring more money here inside to the United States. So, what about coins that were more U.S. based? Those would most likely have a good chance, right? Being used by America in some way or being on a market. You know, I still think we're gonna have a USD coin or something that's gonna replace the dollar, like a USDC or USDT, and that's gonna replace the dollar and be backed by gold. And it'll be the same play for 30, 40 years, and then they're gonna say, oh, we're gonna decouple, and then whatever, that's gonna go crazy. Who knows? Or they could use XRP and another whole market. But I really don't think so. I feel like each country is going to want their own coin, and maybe there's a BRICS coin that all of BRICS uses. Maybe there's a G7 coin for all the G7 nations, or a NATO coin, right? Something like that. But I just really feel like we're really going to move away from physical dollars. We have credit cards. It's almost the same thing as crypto, guys. Like, it's very similar, right? There's not a blockchain, all that stuff. But yeah, we got to keep moving. We got to keep moving. All right, man. I'm getting a little parched here. All right, y'all. Let's dive into this week's real estate and financial market update. Whether you're buying or selling, or just keeping an eye on the economy, here's what you need to know. All right, let's break it all down. We have the conventional 30-year fix at 6.95. That has gone up 0.10 since last week. Things move quick, especially with tariffs. Especially with this reality show we got going on of Real Life Monopoly, all right? Y'all just heard 9.5 on a conventional 30-year fix. Now we have the VA 30-year fix, 6.45. Yeah, you heard that right, 6.4. So that's a 0.5 spread on a VA loan. And a VA loan, you could have 0% down. Conventional, you know what you're putting down on conventional. All right, let's keep it moving. So for buyers, slider high rates may impact affordability, of course, right? Now, locking in a rate sooner when rates dropped, let's say 6-7 days ago, before they came back up just recently, could be advantageous. Definitely is. You're saving money, right? Now, for sellers, rising rates may reduce buyer demand. Now, pricing competitively, pricing your home at the right price is essential. It really is essential. Here's a tip. Maybe list it a little lower than the actual market value price so that you get more people in and you get more offers in, and then you drive the price up past. Anyways, that's a tip. I don't know. Hey, this isn't financial advice or real estate advice. You do what you do. Anyways. All right, let's keep it moving. So the Federal Reserve, the next meeting is on May 7th. Right now, there's a 17.4% chance. Compared to yesterday, it was a 44% chance, but we got these crazy Trump tariffs that we got going on, that now it's 17.4% chance that we're going to get a rate cut. Whatever. Who knows? Who knows? Let's keep it moving. So for buyers, low probability of a rate cut suggests that mortgage rates may remain steady or increase. So for buyers, rates may be steady or increase. So consider current rates when planning your purchase. Right? Current rates or may increase. Now for sellers, stable rates indicate consistent buyer purchasing power, and strategic pricing remains crucial. For listings, for sellers, your price point is incredibly important. Incredibly important, if not one of the most thing. What price does it go in at? Now, we're going to talk about word of the week, loan contingency, a clause in a purchase contract that allows buyers to back out of the deal if they cannot secure financing within a specific period. All right, who does this help the most? Buyers, and this protects buyers from financial risk if their loan approval falls through. Okay, just know that. Just know that. Does your contract have a clause for a loan contingency? All right, let's talk about local metrics here. Remember, every market is hyper local, okay? So here for Denver, days in MLS, 56 days, all right? That's plus 40% from last year. That's intriguing. That's intriguing. Now that favors buyers. You have more negotiating power. All right, my buyers, we can negotiate a little bit more with having the information of higher days on market, and I can see that easily on a listing. And don't let them manipulate. They'll manipulate listings all the time to bring them on and off, to change the price because they don't want days on market. Look for all that stuff. It matters, and you can use it. Now, close price versus list price ratio, 99%. So people are getting 99% of what they're listing for, and a buyer got it at a 1% discount. So that has gone negative 0.4% from last year. And this favors buyers. Home selling closer to asking price, right? So that home, as close as we get to that 100% is good. And even over 105%, great. That's over asking. But 99 is under asking, and that's saying that the buyer got a point discount, a percent discount, excuse me. Homes are staying on the market longer, and that provides more negotiating power and potential for a better deal. At the same time, you have pricing strategy that is more important than ever, right? Sellers, I said this, pricing is incredibly important. Do not miss pricing. Do not miss pricing. Spend your time on pricing. But, all right, y'all know what time it is. Okay, look, drop a comment below with any of your thoughts on these topics and your questions. Right, drop your specific questions if you have something going on with investment, real estate, VA loan, anything like that. Drop a comment wherever you're at, please, and I'll answer. It's all me. All these responses are all me. And let me know what topics you want covered in our next episode next week. We do this every single week, so get your questions in so I can talk about them next episode. And when, not if, when you're ready to start your real estate journey, please visit themilitaryrealtor.us to book your free consultation, no obligation. We'll have a quick talk about real estate, business, stocks, finance, your career in the military, transitioning out, whatever you got. And look, don't forget, take care, God bless, and ownership is freedom. Take care, y'all.